Arjunus Vonderplanitz was an American nutritionist and creator of the raw primal diet. He was perhaps one of the first people of notoriety to advocate for the consumption of raw meat, a topic I'm in the process of making a video on. One of the more controversial things he stipulated was the notion that all parasites, bacteria and viruses are in fact beneficial to people's health. However, for the sake of this video being simple and easy to understand, I'm only going to be focusing on the latter. In relation to the topic of viruses, Vonderplanitz claimed that the only way to get a so-called virus was to be injected with it. It's understood that all viruses are non-living, dead protein structures. Arjunus's theory was that they are all naturally occurring in the body and perform a special role of being able to dissolve toxic or dead tissue from the body in order to heal.
How many people know the virus aren't alive? It's been known in the medical profession for years that you don't give the antibiotics for a virus because they're ineffectual, because they're not alive. They have no nucleus. They're protein parts. There's no respiration, there's no functionality, there's no glandular activity. They are not alive. But what are they? They are soaps, they are solvents. The body makes them to dissolve tissue in your body that are too toxic for the parasites, the bacteria, and the fungus to eat. Too toxic, like when I had chemo, radiation. Parasite, bacteria, fungus tried to eat into that dead tissue, they were killed. Because they were poisoned to death from that tissue. So what's all this contagious bullcrap about virus? That's like saying laundry soap is contagious. Well, it's in every home, and everybody uses it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or between 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Most housewives and people do their laundry. So it must be contagious, because it's always happening about the same time. That's when colds and flus happen. They happen seasonally for a reason. There are 300,000 varieties of virus. Each one of them takes just a little particle of a cell at a time and disassembles. And the pharmaceutical industry says, see, it dissolves the cell. No, it's dissolving a specific tissue in that cell, so specific that it can never damage the integrity of that cell. Unless you have many viruses happening at one time because of a highly toxic polluted cell from industrial pollution. And it's usually from the medical profession that happens. But usually 1, 2 viruses are occurring all at one time, only once in a lot of people. So, you know, one person gets, you know, the flu, then the next person gets the flu, and Joe Blow across town's got it, and all of a sudden, all these people start cropping up, and they say it's contagious. That's like saying the first rooster that starts crowing toward the sun is contagious to all the other roosters, because they get up and crow too, you know. Viruses are not contagious. AIDS is not contagious. It's a man-made virus. It's the lymphonomic virus of a sheep, and it's the leukemic virus of a bovine, spliced together. Man-made. Injected into our population by our dear great military government as biochemical warfare experimentation. And do you know who their undesirables were they allowed to do it on? NSA says they're allowed to do it on? Undesirables. And you know who the undesirables were? Homosexuals. So homosexuals in New York, Houston, Los Angeles, and San Francisco were the target. How did they target them? Well, if you remember in the 70s, all through the 80s, the main people getting hepatitis were homosexuals because of their intense drug use. So they were given it in the hepatitis B vaccine. And they were strategically put in those cities. 10% of the people were not homosexual. That's why 10% of the population was not homosexual who got it in those cities. But it only happened in those cities. And then when the government got caught, it started putting them out in other cities, so they got it all over. And then they put it in the smallpox vaccine in Africa. Why would British government and the American government donate 125 million smallpox vaccines? Why would they give 125 million vaccines? You're talking billions of dollars to make them, transport them, and get them over there and service them. 125 million vaccines were given, funded by the British government and the American government. Why do you think they did that? What happened? It made a medical catastrophe in all of those countries. So where did they go for medical help? They went to the British and American governments who were supposed to be advanced medically. So they got treatment, and guess how many countries are now under the World Bank because they couldn't pay their debt for the medical help? 27 African countries are now run by the British and American government through the World Bank because they poisoned these Africans with AIDS and the smallpox vaccine. Nobody got AIDS there except people who got the smallpox vaccine, unless they were getting transfusion from somebody who had the smallpox vaccine. So you can transmit it in blood, but you can't transmit it sexually, you can't transmit it any other way because it has to be injected into your body. You bleed outward, so you can't get it even if you have anal sex and you bleed. You bleed outwardly, you don't bleed inwardly. And if you have, Dr. Strucker showed that there are only 2 viruses per ejaculation. 5 white blood cells. Destroy 2 easily like that, they'll never get in. And like I said, they can't procreate. They don't reproduce because they're not alive. Viruses are not alive. They are made by cells to clean the body. It is a solvent, a soap. Just like when you have runny mucus, your body has made a solvent, which is a viral type element, which cleans and causes your nose to run heavily because you breathed in something and it's lodged in your mucous membranes. It happens especially with people who don't produce proper mucus fibers. Mucus, if you look at it under a microscope, is a web. It looks like cloth. You have all these protein fibers that mesh, so it's layers and layers of thick, so particles can't get through and damage your sinuses. When people don't produce good quality mucus and they're protein deficient, these fibers are too wide open and particles pass through and hit their sinuses and they have allergies. Mucus is too thin. It needs to be thicker. You need lots of protein like eggs. So when that passes in, it causes an irritation, and your body creates a solvent to make it run and flow. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Viruses are good things. The body's making them for a reason, to get rid of damaged tissue so that you can reproduce new tissue and be healthier and alive. If you keep dying, if your cells keep dying and you don't reproduce them, what happens? You're the old person trying to walk across the street, a little at a time. And if you're reproducing, you're going to go like me, from death to life. You know, from death at 21 to life at 60, and getting healthier every day.